Explain like I'm 5. How do hackers take down a major corporation like MGM Resorts and not get immediately caught? Over a dozen MGM Hotels casinos had to shut down operations after a cyber attack on its computer systems Sunday left the resort chain vulnerable. Days later, and most hotel operations are still not back to normal. How is this possible, and how are the hackers not tracked down and caught? If they are good, and these must be, there are multiple levels of indirection. If you are in North Korea, bounce through a server in Russia, then Iran, Amsterdam and Chicago before trying to log into the Las Vegas target. With the current world situation, how do you get law enforcement in Russia and Iran to work with you? I don't know anything about this particular incident, but in general, with a large cyber attack, even when the hackers leave a relatively obvious trail, it generally will take more than a few days to follow it. There are probably a large number of compromised systems and a lot of logs to analyze. Apart from that, though, the organized crime groups that are behind most cyber attacks these days are often located in Russia, North Korea, or similar places where it's difficult to apprehend them even if U.S. authorities know exactly who they are. Takedown is usually done by the company to prevent the attack spreading to all servers while they analyze the affected areas and bring back systems that are not compromised. Countries they can't be extradited from. It's possible because social engineering remains the easiest way to pwn a company. VX Underground claims Alf V took responsibility of the attack. MGM Resorts is running on bits of floppy disks and binary code. Half kidding. But I worked for them on a corporate level for 5 years and I wasn't ever impressed with any of their technology. It's the World Wide Web. It's a country-wide police force. These guys could be on television bragging about doing it in Russia or China, and there's nothing the police can do about it. Most of these hacks come from groups located in Russia, China, or North Korea. None of those countries have any interest in turning over their own citizens to American law enforcement. Little known fact. Government websites are attacked dozens of times every day, but most fail, and those that succeeded are just small breaches. They can't spend money and resources tracking down every single person that attacks their sites. All they can do is go after the people that do the big breaches to make an example of them. This is a state-sponsored attack. Commie countries, much like the capitalist ones, are fighting a war over the internet. This is the new age Cold War. Local authorities can't do shit. They will often originate from places like China, Russia, North Korea, where the government doesn't give a shit. They probably unofficially sponsor the hacking groups responsible. The US government can't really do all that much about international crimes like this that originate from unfriendly countries, since it would require cooperation from their government. They also hide their tracks by launching these attacks from compromised computers and servers from all over the world. The executives at these companies often know nothing about IT. They hire someone who looks good on paper, and that individual pretends they know something and hires others who look good on paper. Most other people didn't actually take the classes or have no experience and learn on the job. Companies with shitty IT systems that are vulnerable enough to get hacked are also probably the same companies that wouldn't have the talent resources to investigate those hacks well. My take on this: if you good snot to hack into that, then you are good enough to not get caught. They get their hands on authentic credentials, login and password of someone who fell for a phishing email, for example, and do their work under that assumed identity. You can try to geolocate where the traffic is coming from, but that's not super helpful when they live in Russia, Iran, China, North Korea, etc. TBH. Most hacking incidents is someone setting his password to something like 1111 or clicking a very dubious click here button. Companies like MGM Resorts want to make as much money as possible. Cybersecurity is not considered important enough to spend an appropriate amount of money on. Cybersecurity doesn't get any money. Hackers somehow just took down all of the computer systems and their backups in my neighboring counties. If they don't pay the ransom, the county hasn't figured out how to recover everyone's house permits, lot taxes, and worst yet, car tags and titles. It's a real mess that could take 2 years to rebuild. Doing everything by paper during that time. Best guess is someone clicked on and ran an X on a machine that had elevated privileges. I have nothing to contribute, but to say thanks for this question post and to the contributors. This is one of the most informative reads I've ever gotten on here or anywhere ever. Step 1. Operate from a country that doesn't cooperate with U.S. law enforcement. Iran? China? Russia? Here's an example of an incident I worked 2 weeks ago. In under 90 minutes we received 980,000 failed login attempts sourcing from 7 different countries. And over 1,000 source IPs. And that is, generally speaking, an unsophisticated attack using basic software and scripting. Imagine what an intelligent individual can do. Hackers took down the Irish Health Service a few years ago. They're a quays miles ahead of mediocre cybersecurity measures that millions of companies and organizations have. The entire HSE Health Service executive had one cybersecurity specialist who was on a little over minimum wage. It's not surprising that attacks happen when you look into the security behind the scenes. Oh, I wish there was someone who could help me recover my long-lost hacked mail by reverse hacking. Most likely overseas using Tor VPNs as cutouts. TV movies make it seem like people can be instantly traced by their IP to their exact address, but that's not a thing. Shit detections at the edge and even more shit detections inside. User phones getting cloned or hacked with a password list or their password slapped on a notes app. For the taking. It's easier than you'd think to cartwheel into any company. It's not easy to stay hidden. Even if you use a VPN, your IP is still recorded at the VPN. And if you use NordFBI VPN, then they know exactly your IP. But these guys are good. And they have money. If they target MGM, they find people with admin access. Bribe them. I think they pay up to $50,000 for admin access. They use Tinder to get admin access. Like people said, USB memory sticks. And they can stay and play around in the network for months before doing actual harm. You can buy admin access to many big websites if you know where to look.